Hey nerds, I will review my top 5 moments and honorable mentions from the third episode of The Pitt Season 2, starting now. Welcome back to the Nerd Social. I am Colin. Before we start, chapter times are below if you want to skip ahead, and remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, please check out our website, thenerdsocial.org, for more reviews and analysis from our contributors. So, episode 3 is titled 9 a.m., and it is written by Noah Wyle and directed by Uta Briesewitz. The spoiler-free logline of this episode is: after a motorcycle collision, a husband and wife find themselves in the ER. Later, Robby bonds with a Tree of Life survivor. So this third episode was highly emotional. I definitely welled up a couple of times. The focus was still on the patient stories, just like it was last week, and they felt very real, and there was some very shocking plot twists along the way. Hopefully, there will be more storylines on the doctors and nurses as the hours move along. In terms of rating, I would give the third episode a 10 out of 10, which is a theater rental. The emotional beats of this episode took it from a 9 to a 10 for me. It wrapped up some storylines of the patients from the first 2 hours, so most likely there will be a tidal wave of new patients that'll be coming in the next few hours, as it was foreshadowed at the end of the episode. So, as I reveal my top 5 and honorable mention moments, there will be spoilers ahead for the Pitt Season 2, Episode 3, so get ready for that right now. Okay. So my honorable mention number 2 happens to be the wrapping up of some of the storylines from the first 2 episodes, with the man and his 8-hour boner, the southern gentleman with the arm burns, and his father playing roulette with the prescription drugs, along with some unresolved ones like the deaf woman, which we saw briefly, I think, in the first episode, and also the Jane Doe baby. They put that storyline in the back burner in this episode after it was featured very heavily in the first 2 episodes. In this picture, we see Dr. Landon and also Nurse Donnie performing a removal of some beads from a young boy. It was a very gentle subplot about fatherhood, and basically the young boy played VR games while Nurse Donnie and Dr. Landon was removing the beads from his nose. It was supported by the boy's father on his left side. So it was a pretty touching moment for those that are going to experience parenthood or fatherhood. My honorable mention number 1 happens to be the hysterical college kid at the end of episode 2. So if you remember, Dr. Al and Dr. Robby was having a discussion outside near the medical entrance, and then there was a hysterical kid that was coming in, and we were very curious to see what was going to happen with this young man. The audience may have thought that he was on something, and it turns out everything was negative, like toxicology, drugs. Basically, what happened was that there was an overzealous security guard who had tased him at the library. And so you can definitely sense racial undertones with this one, and the overzealousness of the security officer, and also the exchange that he had with the police officers. One of them was a black woman. He addressed them as, "Hey, boys." The fact that the security guard is probably going to get in trouble because he tased this college kid, and this college kid had really nothing in him. So my number 5 moment from this episode is the elderly man who charms Dr. McKay. So back in the first episode, Dr. McKay said that it's been a while she's been with a man. And somehow this elderly man shows up and twirls her around like they were dancing. And then he was complimenting her on her hazel eyes. Obviously, she thinks that he's way too old. But there's another patient who's definitely younger who's very interested in her. So my question is, and probably most of the audience is thinking, don't she want to take that step with him? So we have to really keep an eye out for this dynamic that's going to happen in the next few episodes to see if Dr. McKay some type of love connection with one of her patients, not the old guy, but the other one that was featured. My number 4 moment has to be the elderly Jewish woman who survived the Tree of Life shooting. For those of you who don't know, a gunman shot and killed 11 congregants and wounded 6 at the Tree of Life synagogue in Pittsburgh back in 2018. This elderly Jewish woman definitely had post-traumatic stress because of the incident, and also she was triggered by fireworks that were set out, and then she burned herself on her leg after spilling some very hot water. So Dr. Robby was tending to her and she showed motherly instincts towards Dr. Robby. She said he's very handsome and why is he still a bachelor in his 50s? Really triggered Dr. Robby at the end of treating her to say that it almost came to a bit like crisis with him. But definitely there was a genuine connection and trust that was established there that was really well done during this episode. Also, the elderly Jewish woman was able to bond with Nurse Pearl, who is Muslim. She was able to talk to her about how the Muslim community showed genuine empathy and cared for the Jewish congregation during that time. It really sends a very powerful social commentary message that all of us are human and there's genuine human connections that are happening with people that are of different religious beliefs. And so we can definitely learn how to respect each other and love each other, even though we share different beliefs about who we pray to. Some folks online think that it's too preachy, but I think that this type of exchange and connection is really needed during this fraught time that we are in right now. My number 3 moment is the girl with the bruises. So audience thought the worst, and it was built up that way, particularly by Dr. Santos, that this girl was being abused. So when her father showed up, all eyes were on him, being the suspect of this child abuse. When his current girlfriend said that the girl and her father was roughhousing, the father completely lost it because of the insinuation from the social worker and from Dr. Santos that he was abusing her, which turns out it wasn't the case. So Nurse Dana came into the rescue with a tablet to show that the girl actually had ITP. ITP is actually a bleeding disorder that affects the body. And so there was some vaginal bleeding and there was some other types of bruising. So it wasn't actually abuse. The father and the girlfriend had a shouting match, words were exchanged, F-bombs were given, and so they broke up, and it leads to another patient in the ER having a new perspective on life, which I'll talk about in a moment. Number 2, the brain tumor. The patient that was featured last week and also the week before with the memory loss or amnesia under the care of Dr. McKay turns out to have a tumor in his brain. This was really emotional for me because not only it was brilliantly acted, but the impact of the diagnosis was so heartbreaking. It got even more emotional when he said that his emergency contact with his wife, which he did not change even after they got divorced. His ex-wife asked Dr. McKay if her ex-husband's erratic behavior was due to the brain tumor, and Dr. McKay said it was possible. So it completely changed her whole perspective on how she thinks that her ex-husband reacted to her during the time in which their marriage was breaking up. And she felt very uneasy that she had remarried and then, oh my gosh, my ex-husband really was a kind gentleman, but this brain tumor was really messing him up. So maybe she's having second thoughts, maybe she feels regretful, but it was a nice moment at the end where she told Dr. McKay to keep her as the emergency contact. It's a nice touch where the ex-wife still cares for him, even though she is remarried to another person. Finally, my number 1 moment is the Asian couple. The husband, near the end of this episode, puts his life into perspective by having Nurse Dana film him talking to his wife. In this picture, she's very distraught and she does not want to be seen or treated. She said that she's fine, but she had a lot of anxiety and worry about her husband because his potassium levels were being switched over to his cells, and therefore there was some paralysis potentially. But thankfully, there was no paralysis. It was just the potassium levels that were the issue. Then it turns out that she had internal bleeding on her spleen and she had to have surgery. So the backstory is that they got into argument. He finally relented and took his wife out on a ride for some peaceful time away from his stressful job. And so because of all that, they got into an accident while they were still arguing. This is why she was distraught, because what if he dies? What if he gets paralyzed? And she's thinking it all my fault because we were in a fight. The husband saw the other couple that were fighting with each other. He then brings it all back to think that life is too precious. We can't be doing this. And we need to really value and treasure our life together. So that was really emotional for me because I think that we really need to take a step back sometimes, even though we have very busy lives, even though we have a lot of stress in our lives. We just need to take a breath and just really look at ourselves and see the beauty of what our marriage and our relationships are to us. And those are the most important things that we have, and not just a job or not just a career. It puts a lot of things into perspective. And that's why I was really emotionally invested in this moment from episode 3. So those are my top 5 moments and honorable mentions from the Pitt season 2, episode 3. Tell us what your favorite moments were from this episode by commenting down below. Like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. And we will see you next video. All right. Take care, everybody.